Let me introduce our speakers for today, Akash and Mayank. Akash is a senior product manager at Zoom. He got his O1 visa in recognition for his work in building security, privacy, and compliance products. After his H1B did not get picked in the third lottery, O1 was the only option left for Akash to continue working in this country. Akash started preparing his application in May and got an approval in the first week of July. And about Mayank, Mayank is a lead front-end engineer at a seed stage startup for trucking finance called Outgo. He came to the US in 2017 to finish the last 2 years of his undergrad in computer science. Since then, he has worked on experimental teams at multiple startups of various sizes and has worn all sorts of product development hats. So with this introduction, I hand over the deck to Akash to take it forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Nevin. Hey everyone, my name is Akash. I think Nevin just told me, told you everything that basically there is to know. What I want you to get from this session is just maybe get some more clarity on your profile. I'm not saying that, oh, by attending this session, even you'll definitely get O1 or whatever, but it's basically you'll just have more clarity on whether I can get it, how much time I could get it, or just basically just get one more step closer to the truth. So quick intro. I did my master's from San Jose State and joined PayPal as a software engineer. But during my master's, I did a software engineering internship at PayPal and a product management internship at Zoom. This was in 2019. After my master's, I did not get a full-time offer immediately from Zoom, but I really wanted to break into a PM role. But I was also an immigrant with a 60-day deadline post-graduation. So I had a return offer from PayPal, which I took, and basically searching for PM roles perpetually on the side. So that when I was doing that, after 1 year, Zoom reached out to me saying that, hey, are you interested in a PM role? I did a couple of rounds with the hiring team and I got an offer. But unfortunately, or fortunately at the same time, my H1B visa was picked at PayPal in my first attempt in 2021. And Zoom wanted someone to start immediately. I would have told them wait till October or whatever, but I kind of skipped all of that in my mind and hoped that I would get an H1B either in 2022 or 2023, and basically said, okay, don't file my H1B. I just jumped over to Zoom in April or May of 2021. Because if for H1B to get activated, you have to wait till October 1st. So I was back on F1 STEM, and once you kind of start STEM, you already always have a perpetual thought that, oh, when will my H1B get picked? So I kind of started thinking that same way again. But I was just doing uh, good work at Zoom, and it didn't get picked in 2022, didn't get picked in 2023 as well, which was my last chance. That meant I had 2.5 months to basically for my student visa to expire, and there was no other way at that time. I told this to my manager. He said that, okay, we can maybe send you to Amsterdam or India or Singapore and then bring you back on an L1 visa after 1 year. That seemed like a good option then, because it was kind of the most straightforward way. So I chose Amsterdam. I was going through the process. I even have the European work visa sticker on my passport. That's how close I was. But in the same week when my H1 didn't get picked for the last time, I reached out to my immigration team and asked them, hey, can we maybe do something else? I read about a visa called O1. I have a few research papers and a couple of other things which I'll go into later. So can we try that? They said, oh, they talked with my manager, and in all of this process, your manager support is extremely crucial. So I'm really grateful for my current manager for supporting me through this. But They basically said, okay, your student visa expires on mid-July, so we'll give you 2.5 months to basically prepare and file and hear back from USCIS. So they did premium processing, which meant I had to file by 1st of July, and then I had to hear back before 15th July, when basically I had my flight already booked to go to Amsterdam. That's how close I was. So you can't prepare your profile or anything so much except just collect your thoughts on what you've worked on so far and find an angle for O1, like for applying for an O1 visa. So I basically the main one of the main requirements for O1 is letters of recommendation, which I basically spent 2 months collecting that, seeing who could best give me a recommendation. My 2 months was just spent in that. I reached out to I think 7 people. Two did not get back to me after saying yes, that's fine. Things happen. So I basically got 5 letters and I submitted them. Collected everything. I had 2 patents which I published at Zoom. I had good letters of recommendation. I had 2 research papers from my undergrad. I had a peer review done. Everything. This was 90% of this was between 2021 and 2023. So after doing all of that, I just submitted, hoped for the best, but I was still packing for going to Amsterdam. But I submitted on Friday and got an approval without an RFE on Monday. That timeline, like it varies completely. It can take 1, 2, or 15 days for premium processing. And basically that way I could just stay back here. And I can share in detail what criteria I used for O1 visa. But before that, it's mainly, this might be an outlier. Okay, someone prepared for an O1 in 2 months, and maybe Mike will share his story later. But the main thing is I had everything ready before I decided to prepare or file an O1 visa. So if visa is your only goal, you will probably not fulfill the criteria, because in your mind, if you're only probably running behind the visa, at the base of you should have the desire to do a good job at the end of the day, or just make good impact, get good scope in your work. So if you don't like what you're working on, this process won't be that straightforward for you. If you're only going for a visa, it just might be an empty process that you're running after. And of course, by doing a good job, by extension, it means that your manager would ultimately, or your company would support you. The reason I'm saying that is H1B maybe takes $10 to file. I think they're increasing it to 200, which is still okay. But O1 probably takes north of $5,000 to $10,000 for one application. And even then, it's not guaranteed. Even H1B is not guaranteed, but those are fewer requirements that you have to fulfill. But for O1, it's like a whole application, maybe like a 3, 4, 500-page application that attorneys file, and you get it. So support from your employer is extremely crucial for you. And if you do good job, if you already have something, they are more than likely to file your visa. You can do that anytime when you start your master's or at the end of your 3 year STEM OPT. O1 has no limit on when you can file. And basically you can change your status ASAP. You don't have to wait till October 1st, like H1B. That is extremely crucial. And I can just quickly share the USCIS criteria and what I had worked on. Uh, O1 has 8 criteria. You can find this on the USCIS website, but what I mainly worked on was a peer review, 2 patents in my industry, a few blogs that I had with my work, letters of recommendation from experts in my field, what I work on at Zoom, 1 research paper, and 1 book chapter, and high salary. I submitted for 6. You need minimum 3 to get approved. But the tricky part here is USCIS does not tell you which criteria you got selected for. So you can get that information if you file a Freedom of Information Act, but why go down that rabbit hole? Just let the sleeping dogs lie if you already have it approved. And another reason to potentially consider O1. You probably might not qualify right now. Even if you might qualify, it's worth taking a look at your profile and not self-rejecting every single criteria that you have. But the main reason is that apart from this is mainly for international students, probably Indian students. Apart from H1B, the other options when your STEM OPT ends is maybe going to another country on an L1 visa, or maybe doing a day one CPD, which is another master's, which is again in a gray area, but I've seen people come out of it very successfully, or O1. Out of this, if you choose any other option, you can do O1 anytime, but it's ultimately your choice. So uh, I've been talking for too long, but I'll just quickly wrap up and say, first of all, that look at the criteria, do not self reject your profile. Uh, all of this is dependent on if you probably do a good job at work, because even then the lawyers are incentivized to file for your application, because I've seen people like employers supporting O1 but not filing it for a few people, even though they haven't been picked in the last H1 lottery because their profile isn't strong. So even if your company supports it, there is a chance the lawyers would push back, because even they have to care about their success criteria for O1. So if you at least have 4 or 5 criterias, if you can hit 4 or 5, they are more likely to file. Because if you file with just 3, then for you, even if it's like USCIS, if they reject 1 or 2, even if they reject 1 criteria, you'll still get an RFE or a NOID, which is a notice of intent to deny, which basically means you are not going to get your visa. So regardless of wherever you are in your journey right now, even if you're doing masters, if you're in the first, second, third year of your STEM, even if you're doing day one, or if you're on L1, you kind of need to build that profile. Just be intentional about building that O1 visa, but just keep doing, making good impact at work or even outside. That will, I think, help you the most in building your O1 visa. I think, yeah. That's that was the main. I think that's pretty much what I wanted to cover.
Nevin, did you want to bring Mayank over?
Nevin, you're on mute.
Yep. Mayank, if you can take over the slide and go ahead.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm glad to see a lot of you here. I recognize a lot of you. Thanks for making the time. So Akash actually gave a pretty good overview of what the O1 visa is and how to look at the criteria. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, and then I'm also going to try to convince you that you should apply for it, regardless of where you are in the next 2 or 3 years. So in 2021, uh, July of 2021, I was running out of status. I was on F1. I was working for a company called Convoy. And as soon as I was about to run out of status, we tried for H1B, we tried for working at the same company in another country. We tried a lot of different things. I started interviewing for other companies in other countries as well. And just when I started getting everything in place, uh, my lawyer had actually told me, "Hey, we would actually love to apply for an O1 for you. Can you put out an application in the next month?" So I pretty much had 30 days to apply for this application. And I the way I approached it at that time was, hey, I have all of these things in place, whether it was working in Canada or whether it was working in Europe. And I have 30 days to file this application that someone else is paying for. Like Akash said, they won't actually tell you what criteria you qualified for, but I just assumed I was going to get an RFE. And when they give you an RFE, the good news is they actually tell you what criteria they accepted and what criteria they didn't accept. So I was going to use that as a learning experience. And in 24 months, I had set out a plan to figure out how to qualify for an O1 and come back to the US, wherever I was. So I spent the next week digging as much as I could from the last 5 to 10 years of my life, and tried to put it in an O1 application, worked with my lawyers, tried to find an angle for the application. One of the things that you need is you need a very niche area of so for me that was innovative technology design. For you that might be something else. You need to find that niche, and then your whole application needs to revolve around that story. So when I was looking, I had to find all of the recommenders, see what they could write about, see what work I had done in the past, see what awards I got, and then eventually narrow down on what that list is of those of the criteria that I can satisfy, and then who can write about it. And as soon as all of that started falling into place and I got the first recommendation letter, that's when everything started moving really fast. All of the recommendation letters were done practically within the week. Luckily, I had very nice mentors and recommenders that were ready to like help me in such a short notice. And as soon as we got that done, they just filed it. They didn't tell me when it was done. They didn't ask me to review it. They just really wanted to get it done. So they got it done and just sent it. And I wasn't expecting much. My brother was actually flying back to India, and I told him, hey, I don't know if I'm going to see you when I come back. And it just so happened that it got approved, and I didn't get to take action on any of the plans that I had made. And I didn't have to worry about spending the next 24 months trying to fulfill the O1 criteria. But so I don't have tips for you to start working on your own application, because like from personal experience, because I never had to do that. All the things that I did before were things that I just wanted to do, and it just so happened that it may or may not have fulfilled the criteria. But a couple of things that I can tell you about how to approach whatever time frame you have to apply for the O1. The first thing is, a lot of people think the O1 has to include all of your work from the last 2 or 3 years. And that's not true, especially if you're students. You might be coming here for masters. You're probably worrying about this already. So you have 2 years of masters and then 3 years of STEM OPT. And in 3 years, it's unlikely that you've done an insane amount of work that will qualify for an O1, especially if you didn't work between your undergrad and your masters. You don't really have any work experience, or you might have 1 year of work experience. It's difficult to put an O1 application with just that much of experience. So what people won't tell you, or at least what I had to like kind of push my lawyers to find this out, especially if you're younger in your career, it's unlikely that you've become the most talented person in the field for whatever category you're applying for within the 2 years. So you can actually go 5 to 10 years behind and collect any evidence that you have that might qualify. It doesn't have to be in the US. It can be in whichever country you are in. It can be awards and and work from whatever phase of life. So things that I included in my application, and obviously I had a lot of substance from my employers and a lot of substance post college, but at the same time we used a lot of stuff that I did in college. So whether it was awards or like if you participated in some national hackathons or if you judged some competitions, all of that counts. If you are asked to speak at a conference, you can pretty much use all of that. And the whole point is to tell a really good story. So you don't think of it as a checklist, as um, oh, USCIS has these 7 or 8 criteria, and I must meet them and must try to fit everything into these boxes. But the truth is, you're trying to tell a really great story about why you deserve this, and that's told through all of the support letters. If you see if you see a support letter that uh, is usually drafted, it is supposed to tell a coherent story of, hey, this is where you were, this is what you've been working on, this is where you're about to go. And that's best told when you have a long history of doing important things and a long history of just taking good steps in your career. And a lot of you might be like, oh, I never really thought of that until now, and I'm willing to put in the effort now. And that's totally fine. If you have 24 months, or if you're just starting your OPT, you can think of the O1 as a framework to build your career. You don't have to go and look at all the criteria and be like, hey, I need to do this. But you can start opportunity farming. And opportunity farming is something that will not only help you for the O1, but will help you in your career itself. So let's say you're you're working at so and so company. Start looking for opportunities to start presenting your work or talking about certain topics. Start writing a blog. Start going and um, uh, participating in some competitions. Start uh, start putting out content and start participating in things. Start meeting people. Try to network, and don't do that with the intention of getting the O1, because I never did. I just did whatever I felt like I needed to do as part of my career. And it just so happened that when I sat to apply for it, everything just fell into place. Uh, so whether or not you get the O1, you will definitely be in a much better spot because you're working towards becoming an expert in your field. And that itself is a huge win. And it it doesn't matter what the outcome of your petition is. So that's kind of what I would say is one of the most important pieces. I saw one of the first questions in the chat saying like, hey, I don't have research papers and what should I do? Well, neither did I. The O1 has a lot of different angles that you can apply for. Um, especially if you're working at a company as a product manager, software engineer, or at an early stage startup, you have a lot more options that aren't tied to research. You can rely heavily on significant business contributions or contributions in the field itself uh, through business or education. You don't really have to um, do research and put out papers and speak at conferences. That that is a whole different ball game that actually Aditi will be able to tell you more about. But um, I'd say I'd say like especially if you're in STEM, it's a little bit easier to target the rest of the criteria. Um, but like a lot of you might be like, hey, I actually work for a big company, and what uh, how do I gain visibility? How do I get that in the application, and uh, how do I tell someone that I did this work? My employer is never going to say that. Um, there are a lot of ways that you can get around that. A lot of people think the O1s, um, it, it's like applying to college, right? You have a whole checklist of things and you just need to submit them. It's actually a huge creative project about you. So you need to find creative ways of getting proof. Think of this as like you defending yourself in front of a lawyer about why you should have an O1. And you have to think of any and all sorts of proof of of um, of you qualifying for this criteria. So, for example, if you're working on a very niche product at your company, or you're working on a very experimental project at your company, which I did, uh, what you can creative things that you can do, for example, is if there's a press article that has information about the launch of your product, and someone like Forbes has attested to why it's significant in the industry. It just doesn't name you. That's okay. That's completely okay. As long as you can get maybe one of the recommendation letters to heavily describe why you were significant in getting that project out the door, or um, why they specifically needed your expertise, you can use a recommendation letter to tie you back to those contributions. So that's like one of the creative ways that you can get through that. I don't want to get into the details of all of the ways you can get creative with this process, but I just wanted to wrap up and say that a lot of you might be thinking you don't have the the profile for applying for an O1, and uh, neither did I. I didn't think I was ready for it at any given point in time. I was just put into a corner and forced to apply for it. So I had no bounds of what I could put in it. I just tried to put everything that I've done and everything that uh, I could possibly say on the application, and just relied on. I just kind of hoped that it would go through. So uh, I think a lot of you might be in a much better place than you think you are. Focus on becoming an expert in your field and try to build those connections, build the visibility, and all of these things will fall into play outside. But yeah, Nevin, I'll hand it back to you.
Thanks, Mayank and Akash, for the wonderful talk and giving us a guidance on the O1 visa. A few points before I hand it over to Aditi that I would like to summarize that I've gained from Akash and Mayank is for the O1, you basically need to focus on your career, your profile, rather than focusing on the O1 criteria. So try and build and enjoy that what you are doing so that you are good at what you do rather than focusing on the O1 itself. And the O1 should automatically fall in place. You need letters of recommendations for your O1 visa, and a good amount of work experience helps in securing the O1 visa as well. And awards in any country can qualify, and you can use those awards when you're filing your O1 application. Participate in conferences, and networking also helps in building your profile. Have good evidence that your work qualifies for the O1 criteria so that you can prove that you are good at what you do, which is very important. You need to be good at what you do, and the O1 should automatically fall in place. Over to you, Aditi.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nevin, for that wonderful summary. I do have a quick announcement for everybody who's here. I know your main goal is O1, but like I mentioned briefly before we started the call today, and if everybody's thinking like, can I get a scoop of what Nevin shared? I will send an email out with all the takeaways that Nevin has so beautifully summarized in this chat, and he keeps doing that. EB1 is increasingly becoming the one route to secure your permanent residency in the US, especially if you're somebody, not an Indian citizen, but a person who's born in India. So if you are an Indian who has now moved to Canada and you have a Canadian citizenship, you still are considered in the Indian pool because you are adjudicated not by the country of your residence, but the country of your birth. Newsflash, if you didn't know, it does matter where you come from, as much as the PR strategy of the US would have you think otherwise. If you are interested in getting to know more about what is EB1 and how can I use my O1 as an accelerant toward that, I would encourage you to join our Slack community. There are a fair number of O1 recipients over there, Akash being one of them. Mayank, please join. And Mayank's story that was summarized in this book, it's called Unshackled. If you haven't purchased it, I would encourage you to do that. It's a great encyclopedia of knowing the ins and outs of what it takes to build an O1 profile. And because you're on this call, my good friend Saundarya sent me a free copy of the chapter on O1, and I will send that out to you as a value prop because you're here and you're clearly driven to get to know about this. For the last 20 minutes that we have, Nevin is going to bring Akash and Mayank both back on stage, and they are going to be answering your question. But I do want to set your expectations right. That is, this was a starting point for you to build your O1. This was not supposed to be a seminar where you get all your questions answered. This is to get your grooves moving so that you understand and acknowledge the fact that O1 could be a good option for you, given the crapshoot that H1B has become, and the fact that you need to start building your EB1 profile before rather than later. So thank you again, Nevin, over to you. And we'll keep it short. We'll end it right at 1 p.m. for everybody's time.
So if any of you are having questions, you can raise your hand and you can ask your questions. And please restrict it to one question per person. Shreyas, go ahead.
So my question might be a little different because so I've heard that, for example, people who get into YC, Y Combinator, they qualify for the O1 visa, right? And I've definitely heard that people who secure seed funding uh, somehow get O1 visa. I'm not sure how. So do you guys have some insight on that side?
Yeah, so I can share some light about this. So getting into YC actually qualifies one of the criteria, which is uh, awards. A lot of people think awards need to be like a certificate or a trophy. Awards can be monetary as well. So if YC decides to invest however much money into your startup, that also qualifies as an award. If you get into YC, that means you are a significant, you've made some significant business contributions in your field because you've built an idea and someone was willing to give you money for it. It also, so that's the second criteria. The third criteria qualifies for is critical role in a company, because if you're applying to YC, you're going to be a co-founder or maybe the founder or the CEO. So that qualifies as your third criteria. And because YC is YC, they have a huge army of press people to come and write about your startup and gain visibility, connect you to the right people. So that will count as the fourth category, press. It is not enough to just get into YC anymore, because think of it as all people that apply to YCs have started applying for O1s. So you do need to have some previous work and track record and additional evidence, but getting to YC itself is more than 50 or 60% of the evidence required for an O1.
Okay, that's awesome. I mean, so basically by YC, you mean any like a good seed fund that
Yeah, so whether it's YC or Techstars or
Okay.
Neo, it doesn't really matter. Getting it accepted into any accelerator counts as an award.
Okay, one last question I promise is that so so O1 is like an employer sponsored thing, right? So will it be sponsored by YC or will it be sponsored by, for example, the company that I might register?
So YC does it a little bit differently. I don't know how they've changed it recently, but YC will apply even if you have a startup, they will apply through YC, I think. They might have changed it. You might file it through your own company. I don't know the specifics now, but yeah, maybe get into YC and talk to them.
Yeah. I just read about that recently, actually, Mayank. So you will apply through the startup of which you are the founder or co-founder of, and YC will provide all the lawyer support, how to basically get your application ready for an O1 visa completely. So if you get into YC, these are not the things you would be worried about. So I think getting into YC, which has a less than 1% acceptance
Yeah,
rate,
I don't know.
much more difficult.
I know. I mean, I was just thinking, but thank
Yeah.
you.
Also, on that note, who asked that question? Was it Shreyas?
Yes.
All right, Shreyas, if you want to mark your calendars, October 7th, we have a session for founders specifically. That's EB1A and O1 for founders. And I'm going to put two folks who are going to be the speakers on that day. One of them has his own firm. He's a Canadian citizen, then he came on to be a green card holder. So I'll put that information in the chat. Feel free to attend that. It's free.
Thank you so much. Yep.
Yes, Sanjana, you can ask a question.
Yeah. Hi, Mayank. Hi, Akash. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So I'm a current master's student who's come here for my master's in computer science for this fall. And I've come here for my master's like right from my undergrad. And as a part of my research experience in undergrad, I have published like 4 papers in national conferences. And I'm also extending my research work under a professor in my current grad school. So you said that we can start applying for Owen right from the start of my master's, and you said that it can be done via an agent. So what are all the criterias that they should look into, or specific to my case, what are all those aspects that I can improve upon before I start filing for my Owen, and what is the right time to start doing that? Is it in the first year or in the second year? So what is the suggestion that you would give as per my profile?
Hey, Sanjana. I don't know your complete profile. Right now, you mentioned you had 3 research papers.
Right.
Yeah, but there are like multiple factors to consider. If you go on the USCIS website, like and
Sure thing.
for O1, there are like 8 criterias, and you have to fulfill at least 3 of them.
Sure.
And
Right.
your question brought up 2 good points. One of that is how to apply for O1. One way is an employment-based option where the company you're working at will sponsor your O1 visa, similar to H1 or L1. And the second way is through an agent, where it's not the most straightforward option, but it's possible. But still, you need to show what you would be working on in the US. So that sometimes that is the way founders do that, or maybe independent musicians, chefs, or artists pursue that. That's the way they pursue that option. And an important point for everyone based on Sanjana's question when she mentions that she has 3 research papers. One of the main things that USCS also looks for is not only research papers, patents, or anything, but what has been the impact of your work in your field. So even if you have uh, maybe 5-10 research papers, but maybe they're not cited enough, or even if you have 10 patents but no one is using those patents, or basically if they have no impact in the field, that is not good evidence to classify for O1, at least in my experience. And when I say in your field, even if the patent is something proprietary within your company, it's like, oh, I helped my company make $10 million. Even if you can quantify that, USCIS will argue, oh, it's good you helped your company, but how did you help your overall field of what you're applying for in your O1? So that's a very important distinction, which I've seen people get confused about. So it's important to note that anytime you are preparing for your O1 visa. And USCIS has outlined this beautifully in their O1 documentation. So if you just go on their website, search for O1, look at something called Chapter 2, all criteria are listed with the exact requirements.
Sure thing. So I also have one question to add on to. So do Medium articles or any showcasing of community work that's relevant to your domain and and publishing your work on public spaces like YouTube or any other platform. So does that also count as a publication?
Mm, yeah, I can answer this. Uh, it it doesn't count as the primary criteria. Like I said earlier, think of this as a holistic story about you. You can definitely use those things in your application, but not as primary evidence. So, for example, things that you're looking for when you're looking at articles and media, I saw a lot of you ask this question in the chat as well, is you're looking for things like, for example, you did some newspaper published it, or some online publication published it, or some newsletter published it. It can't be published by you or your employer because you could put as much content as you want. But on the other hand, having like, let's say you wrote a blog post about some of the work you're doing and you had maybe 50,000 or 100,000 reads on that, you can definitely use that as secondary evidence. Hey, this person got quoted in Forbes, and also, they have a track record of putting out content that in this field that has had a large audience. So again, answering your question, no, that doesn't really count towards criteria, but you can still use it in the application.
Sure thing, and it really helped. And for taking letters of references, so if I've done research work under a professor like back in India, so does that also count as a letter of reference if I take?
Yeah, so a lot of you asked this question in the chat as well, and I was just about to answer. Yeah, the question was, who can you ask for an LOR from? And the truth is, you can go as creative. This is the most creative part of the process. You can go as far as you want. A lot of, especially if you're applying as a business with a business background, you can't have anyone within your company apply or like write an application or write a letter for you, because that shows a conflict of interest. It's not against the rules, but it's just frowned upon, and they might penalize you for it by rejecting your application. Some of the things that you can do, for example, I got letters of recommendations from our investors that I had met over the last 5-6 years. I got the investors of the companies that I used to work with to attest to my work because they already knew about what I was doing. They've kind of been mentors for me over the last 5-6 years, helping me in my career. I just got them to write about the work that they've seen me do at the companies. I went and got a recommendation letter. So I was 24, 25 when I had applied. I got recommendation letters from some of my professors. It didn't have to be research based. It could be like capstone project based or whatever you're going for there. That may not be your strongest recommendation letter because you are going for a business background, but you can still use that as if it helps you tell your holistic story, it is an important recommendation letter. I went to a childhood mentor. So this mentor mentored me through high school, college, and the first 2 years of work here in the US. He was my director at high school, and I maintained relations with him for the last 5-6 years. And I got him to write a letter that said, hey, Mayank was doing all these things in high school and then did all these things in college. And then, he continues to do these things even as a working professional. So that told a really nice story and tied everything up since 2012, 2013, which was the last 10 years. It told a really good story that said, hey, Mayank has been doing great things and will continue to do great things in the future. So you can go as creative as you want. You can even have this is a bit extreme, but I know people with ones that have had their friends write recommendation letters. So if one of your friends is it can really attest to your character and things that you've done, if it's going to help your case, you can do that as well. But again, this is the most creative part of the process. Think of everyone you know and anyone that can help and tell your story. And remember that they do need to have they need to have credibility. So the higher post they're at, the more work experience they have, the better that letter is likely to be. But the point is they should know you, your work, your character, your ambitions really well, and those usually tell the strongest stories.
Thanks, Mayank.
Thank
Semanti?
you so much.
Hi, thanks for a very informative session. I had a couple of questions. First is on how to apply, or is it possible to apply for concurrent O1B? So if I am working and I want to start like a startup on the side, what's the process to do that? Will the primary O1B petitioner, which is the company that I'm working for, be okay with like a side hustle, or how to go about it?
I've never or let's say I haven't actually experienced that, so I don't have the best answer for you. Maybe Akash might have an answer.
And I haven't come across that scenario either. So, Semanti, what visa would you be on while applying for that O1 in your situation?
I'm currently on F1, so I'm thinking of applying when I go on my OPT. I also like the EB1 priority date seems to have retrogressed. So I was thinking, is O1 a better option than for people from India?
So EB1 is a application for permanent residency, and O1 is a work visa. So
Yeah.
yes.
You
But
want to
yeah, O1 and EB1 requirements are similar, so it kind of helps in building your profile. But I think for your specific situation, I don't think we both are sure. So best to maybe ask.
Yeah, best to talk about this with a lawyer. I don't know enough about this.
Okay, but O1 concurrent petitions do happen, right? It's possible.
They do. Again, I would talk to a lawyer and make sure that there aren't any limitations to that. I didn't have to do it, so.
Okay, thank you.
Cynthia?
Yes, thank you. So my question was more around the press coverage. So I was wondering if press coverage outside of the US would still be valid. For example, if I was featured in Analytics Magazine India or Times of India or things like that, would that still have a positive impact, or would that not matter as much as getting like a New York Times coverage?
Yeah, so like I mentioned in the chat and earlier too, a lot of people that apply for the O1 aren't necessarily in the US already. So it's unreasonable for for USCIS to expect that all of the work you've done has been in the US or been quoted by publications in the US. Your contributions anywhere in any country, whatever period of time is applicable to this application. Because remember, like you're already here in the US because you came and studied here, but a lot of people that are applying are maybe startup founders in India, or they did their masters in India. They don't necessarily need to come to the US to do any work, or in Europe, wherever they are. It's you don't really need to have all of your work experience here or all of your contributions and press articles here. If you can, like one of my friends applied for one last week and got it approved, and it was that application was very heavy on like Marathi press, and like that's like completely okay here, as long as you can translate all of that if it's not in English and talk about the significance of that publication. Think of it again as a court case. So you need to justify why that press article is significant and why it matters. If you can't do that yourself, then it's unlikely that they're going to approve it. So as long as you can prove that, hey, this article is significant, this press has had history of writing about blah 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 blah, you can argue that that press is significant.
Okay, perfect. That's super helpful. And does the same apply for judging as well? I realize judging is also a criteria, so does the same logic apply there?
Yeah, this applies for almost all of the criteria. You can use the same framework as like, hey, not all of it has to be in the US.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Sunil?
Yeah, hi, thanks. So my question is regarding the scholarly articles. For scholarly articles in my field, I'm not finding good journals with high impact factor. So is it fine, like if we focus more on the citation of my article rather than the impact factor, like which is more important, basically? Is it the impact factor of the journal or my citation?
Akash might be able to
Yeah.
answer this.
Yeah, I can take that. I think you can argue on either point depending on which point is the strongest. But at the end of the day, you just have to show its use. So in that case, citations kind of hold more weight, where you can say, okay, XYZ research papers have cited my own paper. I am the first, second, third author on that paper, and this is how they are using my work, and that's the impact of that other research paper who cited me. So that way it's better. If you only say journal, then the USCIS officer might go into a loop of, okay, there are many other high impact journals. What's exactly what how exactly this journal is separated? Again, it's like if it's super high impact, go for that. But in my experience, or like people I've talked to, sometimes citations matter. I think these small nuances, it's great you're thinking about it. And when you're applying for your O1, this is also an important point to bring it up with your attorney, so they can also strategically create your application.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks.
We have another 4 minutes left, so I think everyone please keep your questions just to one. Satish?
Thanks for the opportunity to ask the question. Mayank, I really liked your approach towards O1, where you mentioned, hey, don't look at O1 as a list of criterions, but think of it as a process where you model yourself to be a better person. I'll try to keep it really short. I'm an early stage PM who's coming to the US this spring. So I have like 1 year of course study plus 3 years of STEM plus OPT possibility to work. Like, how can I best position myself to, like, what are the kind of things that you would suggest to an early stage person like me, like, at least in terms of career, what are the kind of things that I can do to position myself best for all? I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah, I would focus on, because you can have a lot of uh, ownership and a lot of impact on the company, especially at an early stage. I would focus on doing my best work, make sure the company succeeds, do the most product research you can, make sure you do everything in your power to make sure the company raises the next round, gain some visibility in the market, has some press announcements, like all of that follows doing amazing work at the company and making sure the company succeeds. That's what I would focus on. Like all of the places I've done that, you just kind of focus on like, hey, I'm going to do everything in my power to make this a great product, make sure that we have users, and make sure that we are the company is growing in a healthy manner. All of those things matter, and if like at any given point in time, a lot of the answers to those questions, like, do you have revenue, do you have users, if it's no, it's time to switch jobs and find something else that will get you those things, right, where you can do your best work and there is a reward for it. I would just focus on like really making sure you're working on the most important thing at the company and picking up like high impact projects.
got it. Thanks.
Munib?
Hi. I'm currently in STEM OPT, and I was just wondering how to really go about like judging the work of others, like that criteria. How would you suggest going about that in terms of like initial steps I could take to work toward that criteria?
One of the easiest ways for that is like go start participating in competitions, whether it's like a pitch meet. And like I don't know your background and what kind of things you're into, but like if for example, if you're applying from a business background, try to get to a point where you can start judging some pitch competitions and startup competitions, or hackathons. All of that kind of counts. So try getting those, and then try to keep going bigger. So start at any scale and then just keep trying to go bigger.
All right. Got it. Thank you.
Pearl?
Yeah, so you said we can apply via any agent or somebody like that. So my question is, how do we find that agent? Like I've heard like there are people who commit fraud and all that. So I'm like skeptical of finding, like I don't know if I'll find the right agent, or so how do I go about finding the agent? I'm currently pursuing my master's at Columbia. So I just wanted to know that, like, can I apply right now through an agent? Okay, so that's my question.
Yeah, the way through an agent is it's not the most straightforward. It's mostly for people on O1B, like who come here as artists or entrepreneurs. Like maybe if there is a famous actor in another country and they want to come, then they don't have an employer per se, so they apply through a third party saying what impact they will make. And then in your case, it depends completely on your profile or what you want to do. But
Like, since I don't have a lot of work experience, so I don't know if I can apply through an employer.
yeah,
But I interned somewhere this summer, so probably they can write a letter of recommendation for me. But I don't know like how this works.
yeah,
So
work experience does not matter much for applying for an O1. Like you can have 1 or 2 years of experience and they can still apply for your O1.
okay,
That's not a
so if I
factor.
have work experience in India, so will that count as like, because I don't have work experience here. I'm doing my master's like after undergrad. So
Yeah,
what do you?
like I said, you can use criteria for you can use any evidence from any part of your life to fulfill this criteria as long as it's relevant. If the work you did in India is like relevant, you can use that. You don't have to rely on just whatever work experience you have in the US. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. And how do we find the right agent? Oh, sorry, lawyer.
Paul,
Yeah.
I'm dropping the link to somebody who just got her O1 through an agent.
Okay.
Reach out to Danny. She goes by Danny. Her name is Daniela. And ask her questions and see if she's willing to
Okay.
answer.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Of course.
So we have one more question from Geek. Go ahead, Geek.
Yes, perfect. Yeah, it's Jack here. Thank you so much.
Sorry.
So it's all good. It's to confuse a lot of people. So thanks first of all for the session. I think I'm just like covering an edge case question. So since O1 is employer based, if the employment is terminated due to whatever reason, where does this leave the O1 visa holder? Is it still like the 90-day timer for similar to the H1B, or what would be the case since it's employer based? They're the one who renewed for you and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you have the same grace period as all of the other visas. You also like in the O1 specifically, the employer does need to cover the cost of transportation back. So they'll have to cover whatever costs is associated with not moving back, but I think they need to cover at least your flight tickets. And there's some, like, a lawyer will be able to tell you this more in detail, but um you don't have any other privileges like in terms of like an extended grace period. One of the cool things about the O1 though is like if you get like laid off at any time for some reason, you can go and like make sure you have your whole O1 petition document with you. So you should have the whole petition with all of the pages, including all the USCIS forms. if you can find another employer to apply for your O1, get all of that done and just refile the application again. And because you have premium processing, you can get it done in less than 15 days. So like ideally within 60 days, you should be able to find a new job, refile your O1, and it's unlikely that it will get rejected the second time. So you have that option of being able to like find a new job and get something working for you rather than like having to just leave the country in 60 days.
Got it. That makes sense. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so thanks, Akash. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, nothing. Sorry.
I was just thanking you guys for patiently answering everyone's question, and I hope everyone has got their answers to all their questions and start working on building their profiles. Over to you, Aditi.
Thank you so much, Nevin, Mayank, and Akash. What a wonderful session. If I could request everybody to just take a moment to thank the guys. They just went over and above to help you. And thank you again, Nevin, for facilitating this. So I will send out an email with the recording. I will send out an email with the abbreviated notes that Nevin has sent. I'll send out an email with Mayank's chapter on O1, and I will also send out an email linking everybody's LinkedIn. As much as you'd like to get to know the folks on the call, the speakers, please get to know each other as well, because you're all collaborators. You can work with each other to build your profile. So thank you again, Nevin. Thank you, Mayank, and thank you, Akash. And thank you for working toward your future. This is not easy. Shit's hard, but you're doing it anyway. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Get some lunch. That was your favorite meal anyway. So get some lunch. All right. Happy second coffee, Akash.
Yeah.
Take care.
Good. I'm already down too.
Awesome.
I need to have my first.
Cool. I'll let you guys go. Thank you so much, you guys. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. See you.
Bye.